Multiplying and dividing integers. Remember, integers are just values that can be either positive or negative. So let's look at some examples. Our first example is -3 times 2. Now in this video, I am going to assume that you know that 3 times 2 is going to give us 6. But what happens when we make one of those terms a negative? So we went ahead and drew out 3 negative signs for you right here. So we have a group of 3 negatives, but we want to have those negative values 2 times. So here's my first group and here's my second group. So how many do we have all together? Hopefully you see that we have 6 negative signs. So -3 times 2 gives us a -6. So anytime we multiply a negative times a positive, our solution or our product is going to be a negative. And it doesn't matter the order in which you multiply. If we had multiplied a positive first and then by a negative, we would still get a negative product. Now, the rules for division are exactly the same. If I have -8 divided into 2 congruent or equal groups. So I've got -8 here, and then I'm dividing that into 2 equal groups, okay? So here is a group, and here is a group. We have 2 equal groups. How many negative values are in each group? 1, 2, 3, 4. That is why this also gives us a -4. Okay, so the division rules are exactly the same as the multiplication rules when we're talking about positives and negatives. Now, what are we going to do when we have a -3 times a -2, when both of our values are negative? And hopefully it makes sense to you that when I multiply, or when I have this number -3, it's the same thing as saying -1 times +3. And then of course this -2 right here is like saying -1 times +2. All right. Now in multiplication, we can multiply our numerical values in any order that we want. So if I rearrange this and say +3 times +2 times -1 times -1, we have exactly the same problem here. So let's break this apart into pieces. We have 3 times 2, which gives us 6. And then we're still multiplying by our -1 times our -1 again. Now, another way to think about multiplying by a -1 is it just means that we are changing directions. Instead of going in the positive direction, we're going in the negative direction, right? So essentially, if I'm multiplying by these 2 negative values right here, if I multiply by -1 twice, they're basically negating each other or canceling each other out. We're moving to the left in the negative direction, but then we're moving right back in the positive direction because multiplying by a -1 just means turn around and go in the opposite direction. So essentially, this is just like multiplying by a +1. So this is like saying 6 times 1, which of course is just 6. So this multiplication rule right here, anytime you're multiplying a negative value times a negative value, the product is going to be positive. All right, so when we were in elementary school, we learned a positive times a positive is a positive. And it probably wasn't laid out explicitly like that for you. However, we know that to be true. We've been multiplying like that for years now, right? We've also discovered that multiplying a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive will give us negative products. And that is how you multiply integers.